Hello and welcome to Almost 30 Podcast.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It's Lindsay and Krista. We're in studio together. We can touch.
We can touch. We're in New York City. Welcome to Almost 30. If you're new here, I'm so glad you're here. You don't need to be any age to listen. We started Almost 30 when we were transitioning from our 20s to our 30s. We felt a little lost and confused. It's such an important time in your life. There's so much change happening. And so we started a podcast on our closet floors when we had full-time jobs. And we grew this thing from the ground up with our best friendship at the foundation. And we talk about spirituality, wellness, all the things.
And we realized that going through that very intense change of your almost 30 era kind of prepared us for like any change upcoming. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's why we say any age, baby.
Mm-hmm. Any age. You can be whatever. There's a man that I was talking to the other day and he's like 50 something. Mm-hmm. He's like the biggest fan.
Really?
Yeah. He's a lawyer.
Cool.
I know. I was so honored. I'm like, that obviously I love all y'all chickies. I love my babes. But when there's like a man that listens, I'm like, yes, we're really reaching them.
Totally.
Because
it's just, by the way, it's a hack for any man who wants to learn more about, not that we just speak to female experience, but obviously we're females. Yeah. And so we're going to lean on that. But it's a total hack.
It's a total hack.
Learn more about what we're interested in.
Yes.
Bring it to conversation.
I think too, I hope we try and keep it. I think probably back in the day, it was so much from our lens and experience, but I try and be more neutral.
Yeah.
Because there's a frequency that you can metabolize of a woman that's kind of a little more neutral. Like Mel Robbins is so good at that. She's so can reach anybody in such a powerful, really, really clear, piercing way, whether you're a man or woman or whatever. And I really seek to be someone that can be in that. Obviously, it's not out of my control. A lot of it's out of my control, but.
I wonder if it has to do with age too.
Oh yeah,
kind of
100%.
Wisdom, where guys definitely look to Brene Brown.
Totally, so true.
You know what I mean?
So true.
Not every guy, but you know what I mean. It's an interesting thing that I wonder.
I saw
they realize
a guy at a coffee shop sitting up so erect, reading Daring Greatly, and I was like, "I see you, brother.
That's amazing.
I see you, brother. I see what you're trying to do here. Just leafing through like this.
That's
had his book like this. We're just reading Daring Greatly, like."
I hope people see the cover.
Yeah, and he has one single tear just rolling down his face. He's like, I've never been vulnerable.
I was saying we were talking about this conversation with GS Youngblood on the pod today. And he talks about relational masculinity. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to think about our experience, let's say over the last decade or two of the masculine and kind of what we learned the masculine was, how it's changed, our experience of different forms of masculinity, on the spectrum. Does anything come to mind when I say that?
Fear. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so many things. I'm like, I don't know if I've ever met a truly embodied conscious masculine man.
Yeah.
Or been around them frequently. I would have to really, really noodle on that. And that's no shade at all. But I guess it's interesting because it's in the way I'm being taught now and in the way that I'm learning. I think, and the way I understand it now is so different. It's so energetic and it's just so specific. And I don't know if growing up or even, I've dated amazing men, I've been with amazing men, but I don't know if they really knew what an embodied true masculine was and knew how to help hold that and knew how to be in that. And I probably didn't facilitate that either. Mm-hmm. It's not like I was working on my thing too. So I don't know. I feel like most men right now are struggling.
Do you think if we're talking about heterosexual relationships, do you think every type of woman needs a quote masculine man? Because I feel like there are some dynamics where I'm like, that quote, nice guy, kind of softer, totally. I want to say pushover, but whatever, is perfect for that woman. But is it dysfunctional or is it perfect?
I don't know. Because I feel like that's the template right now is overbearing, over-controlling, over-functioning woman.
Yeah.
Man then has to figure out how to be. And so he becomes nice guy, docile, chill, doesn't really have needs or an opinion.
Yep.
And has to go along with whatever the woman wants. And I don't know if maybe both are happy. Maybe they're not. I wasn't happy in a dynamic like that before.
But it's funny how like we almost overcompensate and play into it, but we're so unhappy.
Say more.
Like, I feel like I did this when I was dating more so, not long-term relationships. But like where you know and feel that the man is more docile and submissive because of your
100%.
intense, whether it's control, energy, whatever.
Yes.
And you're like, this is so unattractive. What the fuck? And then you keep doing it.
Oh, I liked it, but I liked it though.
Okay.
I found it attractive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. For a time.
Yes, for a time.
And then no.
And then I was like, no, because I was probably fully in my masculine. I was controlling.
Yes,
I liked to lead.
Yes.
I liked to call the shots. I liked to do everything. I wanted to be the full like energetic frequency dictator of the vibe. So that's how I felt safe.
That's like, I was going to say like a safety.
That's how I felt safe. And now I don't want that anymore because I trust myself more. You know what I mean? It was like, you're living in fear kind of. It's like your like little girl is. But yeah, I enjoyed that dynamic and I didn't know anything else was possible. Or I also felt like it was like, this is what a woman does. This is how a woman is. Like it was only really the dynamic that I saw.
Right. Yeah.
Were you in that dating?
With a few people, but it was never like an intense, like I'm controlling everything and they're more docile. It was more like I was trying to quietly control how much they liked me. And like, I really wanted them to like commit. I wanted them to think I'm wife material. So I was kind of under the surface trying to orchestrate that.
Totally.
Doesn't work with someone who doesn't want to commit / is not right for you. And what I experienced of the masculine there was more like an indecisiveness. So less of like kind of a structure and a clarity around like what they wanted, what their preferences and desires were, more so because they didn't want to commit.
Also, but it's so funny because their like lack of ability to commit or their kind of indecisiveness, it's so funny because it's like, also, the woman is completely shape-shifting. So they're like, what am I even committing to?
Exactly.
They can feel it intuitively when a woman is shape-shifting for them. So it's almost like, okay, I don't know. It was something's off.
And not being myself. So how was I to...
Who am I committing to?
Attract the person I'm meant to be with at the time if I'm not being myself.
Exactly. Totally. But it's so funny because before, I don't think you're not being you don't know. I don't think I really knew.
No.
Or maybe I was being a version of myself. I don't know, but I didn't really understand how much I would like shapeshift. I mean, I was so good. Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean,
girl. I'd be like, you like Supreme? I literally have a whole Supreme hat collection.
Like how many lies did you tell?
Literally so crazy. Oh my God. I'm trying to think of the lies. For sure. Definitely.
White lies.
Yeah. Like probably like, this was oh my God. This is so cringe and hilarious. My favorite lie, it's making me like verbally sick. My favorite lie was to be like, I ran track in high school. They'd be like, oh, did you play sports? I was like, yeah, I played volleyball and I ran track.
You did play volleyball,
I did play volleyball and I wasn't good. I was like too in my head. Like I mean,
track is such a risky thing to say because you got to know what a 4x4 is, 100 meter, whatever, a 200. What is that?
I was like, I ran the 500.
You're like, something. I did the one where you would just run once around the track.
Yeah. It was like, it was just, fast start and then stop and it made my butt look great. Like I was like, girl, like I just was like, that was like one of them that I was like, oh my God.
That is so funny.
So stupid. What was the lie that you told?
I feel like I did like sexual lies.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, whether it's like something I've done before.
Oh my gosh, this is.
Or haven't done before.
100. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
or would say I like would agree and like, yeah, let's do that.
Totally.
Like through text or virtual
Totally.
and then
Never.
would be like, absolutely not.
Oh my gosh, no.
Are you kidding me?
Dude, that is.
So I think but I used that to like kind of lure.
Totally.
And then they're like, you're a fraud.
Yeah, honestly, you're a big baby. Yeah, it's like you don't even want to do any of that. So I was really enticed by this interview with GS Youngblood. So he studied with John Wineland, like some of the greats like David Data, Alison Armstrong. And they had pitched, and then I had a few friends that were talking about his work. And then I was like, okay, perfect. That's the sign. So basically he works with men, and he works with men on redefining masculinity, because right now we're really in a stage in society and culture where we are telling men that they are bad, that masculinity is bad, that there's toxic masculinity, all these things, but we're not really providing a template for how to be in the new age, how to be with the modern woman, how to be with the way things are changing and evolving. I think women are getting a lot of information about how to change and evolve in the new way, but this is really the masculine blueprint. So there's a 3-part blueprint that we talk about on the show, and we really dig into a lot of details on how to do this. And the first one is to respond versus react. With women. So he talks a lot about responding versus reacting to women. And so the reaction would be like getting mad, like, looking for details, like looking for specifics, and just responding first. I think this can work in any relationship too, but I think men have a hard time because I think they feel like they're trying their best. They're doing everything they can. So they feel like just brokenhearted when they let us down. The second one is provide structure. So providing structure within the family, providing structure within the relationship. And the third is create safety. So creating safety in the home, creating safety in the relationship. That's physical safety, that's emotional safety, that's financial safety. And we really focus on the emotional and physical safety in the relationship, not as much the financial, but that's definitely part of it.
Yeah. Emotional safety is so interesting. I feel like, we can kind of think about the physical safety, but emotional.
It's interesting too, because physical is very specific. I think physical is very interesting too, because it's like, it's nuanced. It's like,
tell me more.
It's like when you're out, like being on the outside.
Yeah.
When you're walking, putting the hand behind, when you're getting in the car going up, like it's almost like you're with a CIA agent.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of moving 100%. Things around.
They're thinking about, so you don't have to have the mental load of being a woman in the world. Truly, is someone gonna steal my purse or assault me? Truly. It's like having that.
Yeah, that frame or understanding. And it's not like you want to be with someone that's like always scared about something where it's like, get on my right side.
Or he's wearing a CIA suit.
Yes, he's got like a taser in his pocket. But it's just a very gentlemanly, nuanced way of being that creates a feeling of safety in your body. But emotional safety is huge.
And I would imagine too that there's a link between the emotional and physical with anyone who has experienced maybe in a prior relationship or not, like a physical trauma where like the person is aware and kind of works
100%. You're speaking to me exactly. And I hear you.
I didn't mean to speak to you, but like,
yes,
I think it's
100%.
very common. Like it's very common for people to have experiences that are very traumatic.
Yep.
And it's like, how does the masculine hold that when you build the trust and all the things?
It's interesting too, because with emotional safety, when we talk about creating emotional safety, I know women in relationships that feel safe with their partner because a younger girl part of them created safety with them, but it's not their like highest self or soul. So basically from like a parts perspective in internal family systems, we have our parts. Like we have our inner child as an example. So oftentimes in a relationship with a man, that inner child can feel safe for maybe the first time in their life with a man. And it's like then that inner child is deeply connected to that man. And so that inner child feels safe. But then there could be another part of them that's like, oh, I actually don't feel safe in my bigness. I actually don't feel safe in my like most exalted version of myself. So there can be parts of you that feel safe with someone, but there could be other parts that don't. So the safety thing is also too like safe in all spaces or areas. Like, are you safe in your like deepest, brightest expression as you are at your lowest moments?
Yep. Yeah, I think the emotional safety last thing, I think that can be or I've experienced it to be obvious that it's there and healthy in like conflict, where it's kind of like learning how to fight, like fighting in a way that is not only productive, but safe for both people to fully express and be themselves and not, you know, have what you said held against you, or like fighting in a way that's really disrespectful in the moment, calling names, or, I think that for me would be an emotional safety thing.
That's huge. Yeah, I love that. Because that's sometimes for a lot of us, like the part where we feel bad, or, you feel like the most scared, because that's when feels like love is taken away. How can you fight without love being taken away? We talked about the nice guy archetype, like what the nice guy does for the feminine nervous system, why so many women don't just want nice guys. The asshole archetype. And then lastly, my favorite part was something I always tell this. I always say I'm all feelings, no facts, like in my life. But he said that in conflict, it's really good to approach feelings first, facts later, especially with the feminine. And I really, really love that, because I feel like a lot of times too, men will be like, well, what happened here? What did you say? Where did we go? They're always like literally nitpicking the facts of exactly what happened.
The more logical brain.
Yes. And you're like, dude, it doesn't even matter. I just want, I'm going to say something crazy and I just want to be like able to express. So really sitting with the feelings of a woman and letting her move through that emotional experience, and then going to like the facts later.
Yeah. Such a good one.
I know. I love that one. It's a really, really good one. So you can find more information about GS Youngblood at gsyoungblood.com. And the book is The Masculine Blueprint. And there's another book that he also has called The Art of Embodiment for Men.
Beautiful. Thank you all for listening. We have hundreds of other episodes over the last 8+ years. So be sure to subscribe, check them out, and subscribe on YouTube. We'll see you on the other side.
See you soon.
I am so excited to share with you guys an incredible scientific breakthrough to support your long-term health and wellness. It's C15. C15 is the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in 90 years. And get this, studies have confirmed that it's 3 times better, broader, and safer than omega-3. I've been taking C15 for about 2.5 months now. Phenomenal. It's one tiny, tiny little capsule a day. And I have just been really blown away by the results. So, to keep it super simple, C15 has essential nutrients that keep our cells healthy, which keeps us healthy. A lot of us have cellular fragility syndrome, which is caused by a lack of the essential fatty acid C15. As many as 1 in 3 people worldwide may have low C15 levels and cellular fragility syndrome. So this can really accelerate aging, age-related breakdown, and impair metabolic, liver, and heart health. So this is pretty serious. And this is a pure form of C15. Fatty 15 is a science-backed, award-winning vegan and pure C15 supplement. So excited to introduce you to. It has 3 times more cellular benefits than omega-3. As I mentioned, it's made from a patented pure and oxidation-resistant C15 powder. It's derived from plants. It's vegan-friendly, free of flavors, fillers, allergens, or preservatives. It's the only ingredient in Fatty 15. It's 100% pure, which is pretty phenomenal. So it repairs age-related damage to cells, protects them from future breakdown, boosts mitochondrial energy output, and activates pathways in the body that help regulate our sleep, our mood, and natural repair mechanisms that support our overall health. It is so powerful. Fatty 15 is on a mission to replenish your C15 levels and restore your long-term health. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/almost30 and using the code almost30 at checkout. That's fatty, FATTY 15.com/almost30. Use code almost30 at checkout. One of the hardest areas of like my non-toxic swap attempt in my life is hair care. I feel like a lot of the clean products don't work. I've managed to swap out my makeup and how home cleaning products and all those things, but hair care has been a hard one until I found Lola V. And so I'm really, really, really excited and proud to introduce you to Lola V, an award-winning hair care line founded by the ever fabulous and ever iconic Jennifer Aniston. Do you know her? With the holiday season in full swing, it is time to embrace the joy of giving, babies. And what's better than the glow of healthy hair for yourself and for someone else? So I'm really excited for you to just unwrap the secret to gorgeous hair this holiday season with Lola V. Listen, we all face these struggles with our hair, whether you've used a lot of tools and you blow dry your hair every day or just damage from coloring, etc. Like Jen understands. Okay. And what's really cool is that they have made really, really effective products that actually work and are good for us. So they offer clean plant powered products designed for every hair type and texture. So you can really embrace this upcoming season, fall, winter, without sacrificing your hair health. Their naturally derived peptide bond builder, known as B Pro 3 bond technology, is derived from chia seeds and is clinically proven to prevent, protect, and repair signs of aging and damage on hair. It combats damage right where it starts, guarding against dryness and breakage while deriving high performance results. I have been using their shampoo and conditioner, and y'all, I am so freaking happy. So I wash my hair probably every 3 days, I would say. And so this restorative shampoo is incredible for just like really cleaning my hair, cleanses it. It also nourishes it beautifully. And I use the restorative conditioner. It's hydrating. It repairs. Sometimes I get split ends. I've just noticed less split ends, which is really nice. And just overall, my hair, it feels healthier and stronger and is shiny. And I love it. So those two products I absolutely love. And then the third is, I love it, the glossing detangler. So I have tangly hair. I really do. I'm a mom. My child is putting stuff on my hair. I wear hats. So the detangler is amazing for just smoothing out your hair, protecting your hair, just adding shine to your hair and detangling. It's phenomenal. I highly, highly recommend. So I'm really excited because for our listeners, as always, we got you. Okay. We have a discount. So this holiday season, unlock Jennifer Aniston approved hair at lolav.com. As our listeners, you'll get an exclusive 15% off your entire order when you use the code A30pod15 at checkout. That's 15% off your order at LOLAVIE.com with promo code A30POD15. Please note you can only use one promo code per order and discounts can't be combined. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. And I would love if you could please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Your hair will thank you. So again, that's get 15% off Lola V with the code A30pod15 at lolav.com.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to Almost 30. I am so grateful that you're here. I was so excited all day to be in conversation with you. So much of the topics that you discuss and that you explore are so relevant to my life and the women's life of the people that we serve here at Almost 30. And I think you have such a grounded approach to the way that you speak to men and the way that you speak to women. And I think the work that you're doing in the world is so important. And so I'm excited to see where we go today.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Krista. I appreciate your interest in the work and helping me get the word out to your audience.
Yeah, it's going to be a juicy one. So when I look at the world of the masculine and the feminine today and sort of the dynamics that I see and sort of what's going on in the world with the struggle that a lot of the women in my life are in and even the men in my life are in, it does seem like from a cultural perspective, we're at this sort of friction point where women are not necessarily getting what they want and men are not necessarily getting what they want out of relationships. And these certain types of dynamics I see playing out on a larger scale quite often, where the men are sort of out of their power. The women are over-indexing, controlling, micromanaging, all of these things. What are you sort of seeing as a collective whole happening within the masculine feminine dynamic that we can ground ourselves in for this conversation?
Yeah, there's let's zoom out for 1 second and we're in an arc. We're in a very long arc that spans thousands of years, and we're in a space of a little bit of overcorrection right now, and I'll talk about that. But and we're going to overcorrect, and then we're going to swing back, and we will get there. And where we came from, we both know, and I think everybody in the audience understands, of thousands of years of male domineering in the world. And then we've collectively sort of woken up and we're overcorrecting right now. Guys are now getting the message that, damn you, the men have been so overbearing for so many years, decades, and centuries that we need to pull back. And unfortunately, what the feminine wanted from us was their voice to be heard, their feelings to be felt. There needed to be a space for them in this. And men overcorrected because we started to become very reticent to assert ourselves, because the ways that our assertion looked over the centuries was misogyny, was sometimes sexual abuse, and bad things like that. So we've overcorrected, and a lot of guys have really pulled back. And I think therein lies the challenge. And that's where we are in this big arc that spans the millennia, is men are afraid to assert themselves. So men are confused. I have empathy for both sides of this coin and this equation, that men are confused. They don't know how to be now. And that was what David Data has started to address. That's what John has started to address in his work. And certainly the same thing that I'm looking at now. And that's what the book is for me. It's that offering of what is a modern masculine that fits in the modern world, that does acknowledge the fact that we're in a Me Too relevant world today. And we'll talk about the framework in the book, but this is what I was and am wanting to bring to the world, is a model of masculinity that one, men can understand. It's not esoteric and woo-woo and kind of out there. It's like, no, it makes sense to their daily life, and it's something that they can embody. And the heart of it, and this is the last thing I'll say here, is the heart of this framework that I'm offering is teaching men how to be grounded in themselves and more relational with their partner at the same time. And I think that's the flavor of work that I'm trying to bring to men. Is it's relational masculinity, not alpha dog masculinity or anything like that, but it's relational masculinity.
Mm. When we think about, in history, I guess, people call it patriarchy, or they say like the masculine is dominated. I'm always so curious about that, because I often think, right, maybe it's when I look at right now, the cultural lens where people are like, it's male dominated culture and society. I'm like, I don't necessarily see it as we're masculine dominated in the healthy masculine. It's not like I'm saying it's toxic masculinity, but if it was masculine dominated in a healthy way, then it actually would feel much more cohesive and beautiful. And I think when it's almost like we're operating from a fear paradigm in both senses, where the women are in a masculine frame that's not necessarily a healthy masculine, but it's like a fear-based one. And the men that are operating in kind of the masculine are almost in the fear-based masculine too. And I don't know if we've even seen like a healthy masculine-based society. So when we're looking at the way that we judge the society, we're taking the masculine and we're calling it toxic masculinity, but it's not even really true masculinity.
Yeah, a lot of what is passing for masculinity is men over-indexing and doing the Andrew Tate kind of thing, where it's more domineering. That's not, I have a different view of things, and I've tried to define what would a healthy masculinity look like, and we can go through that. But that's what I'm trying to bring to the world, is what's a healthy version of this whole thing that men can embody.
What was your journey to that? I want to get into it, but it's like, for you being in the work that you are in, you have had to, I'm assuming, have your own journey with things to be able to be teaching and understanding these concepts.
Yeah, my journey is very relevant to what I'm doing in the world. I was in a marriage that ended about 15 years ago, and it ended in a pretty spectacular ball of flames in a way that was particularly painful for me. And by the end of that relationship, I was just dancing around and trying to kind of keep out of trouble and stay away from her anger, because I had allowed myself to become very emasculated, and really had just lost my own identity. And so the marriage ended, and I just knew there had to be a better way. I was very unhappy at the end, as was she. And I didn't know what masculine, feminine dynamics were. I didn't know what masculine leadership was. I didn't know what it was to lead in relationship at all. And that's a big component of why the whole relationship broke down. I don't think it was either of us by ourselves. It was what we both brought to the table. So from that point, I started to get into men's work. Like most people, David Data was the entree point, and that was an eye opener. Wow, this whole notion of polarity, I had no idea. And here's the thing. It really explained, in retrospect, it explained a lot of my relationship problems. And so from that point, I went on kind of a dual track of studying with David and John and other people over time, but as well as being in a relationship for the last 12 years. I've been with the same woman for the last 12 years, and she's a powerful woman and has a really beautiful, strong feminine. And she embodies both of those. And that was, for me, that was a real life laboratory of, when I bring a certain thing into the relational space, does it open? Does it close? Does it improve our connection? Does it hinder our connection? And so I've had 12 years of a very expressive woman reflecting back how I impact her over time. And it's been awesome. It's a lot of what all my work is based in is not just learning from other people, but also the real life experience of it and what worked and what didn't. And over time, I codified that into what turned out to be the first of my 2 books. So that was my journey. Failure was my motivation to find a better way to be in relationship and grounded within myself.
That does seem like a pattern, and I've even experienced that as well, being in relationship with men where it seems like men sort of lose themselves and then the woman overcompensates and starts to overfunction, starts to lead, starts to overcompensate in a way, and then you lose the polarity, and then it's almost like mother-son type dynamic. And I think for a lot of women in the world where they're now really powerful, making money, emotionally processed, all of these things, they're feeling like they're not finding men that are up to par or up to bat with things. And the men are kind of being told to just be nice, but also it's just very weird. So can you say more about that type of dynamic that I'm explaining from your perspective?
Yeah, let's generalize here. Let's give ourselves permission to generalize
Let's
about
be free.
masculine, feminine, men, women. Yeah. It's in relationship, the women are going towards the connection.
Yes.
And if they don't feel it, they double down on that and they go more towards the connection. And then it starts to get into a little bit more edgy expression of that and really demanding that the man start to be more relational. And the men do just the opposite. When things get hard, we kind of retract in on ourselves. And that's the simplest way I can describe the dynamic. I mean, women are nodes in a system and men are islands. And so we tend to we want simplicity of being on our island. And for the feminine, the juice of life is in between the nodes, the people, and that's where your energy is. And unfortunately, we're exactly the opposite in that. And so when things get tough, we both double down on our natural way of being, which for men is to isolate and women is to try harder. Unfortunately, the harder the women try, the more the men retract, and you have that, that the chaser and the follower dynamic going on. And then as the men more and more retract, then they're not even bringing leadership and connection into the relationship anymore. And the woman pursues even more and has to take over that leadership role. And it's a really toxic dynamic. And so that's a lot of what I'm working on with men is when she's making bid for connection, how do you move towards that? How do you meet her in that place of connection? Feed the emotional connection, know how to actually build emotional connection. It's a big part of the work that I do is how to build emotional connection with their woman. And I tell them, guys, when you do that, everything gets easier. When there's a healthy emotional connection between the two of you, everything gets easier. And, they're like, okay, that sounds great. How do I do it? And then, we go into the practices that I like to teach guys in how we do that. So that's kind of my view on that dynamic that you brought up.
I think that's huge. I think, one of my goals in life, I coach women. One of my goals in life is to eventually coach men. And I'm like, I would love to just be like, it's probably a lot of the work you do. It's so simple. It's like, and I think you talk about it where you talk about feelings first, facts later, which I love. And I'd love for you to explain
because it's like, oh my God, it's just validate me and then I'm all good. It's actually so simple. But what it seems like to be happening, and I'd love for you to explain more about feelings first, facts later, is that the men come in, they're like, well, I did do this thing, or I did this thing, I checked the thing off the list, or from a technical perspective, I was doing this thing. And women are like, it's not about that. So what's sort of happening in that dynamic, and why feelings first, facts later?
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. It's one of my favorite quotes in the book.
Best.
There's two levels of communication. There's informational and there's energetic. And never the twain shall meet. They are not the same language, just like French and Greek are not the same language. They might be similar, but they are not the same. And so, there's this classic example of a woman has an emotional expression. It may not be tied to the actual facts of the situation. It may be a bunch of stuff munged together, but it's energetic. And then, of course, this as well as anybody. The guy receives that and is like, but no, wait a minute, that's not correct. I didn't say it like that. And this, you're off here. And they try to they try to reconcile her emotional, energetic expression to the facts. And that's where things go awry. And we're pathological about it. We're compulsive about it, unfortunately. And what I always tell guys, using the quote that you brought up, is feelings first, facts later. It's not that the facts don't matter. It's that when she's in that energetic space, she's just not going to hear it. There is 0 point in trying to speak the language of facts. What I'm teaching guys is look, she wants to feel you feeling her in the moment. So if she's angry about something, she wants you to feel the pain that she's in, not at a head level, but just a felt sense of it. And that's because then she feels an emotional resonance, and that's when the nervous system usually comes down. Because really, this is all about the nervous system. When the nervous system is activated, you got to address that piece first before you get to the informational portion of it. So I say, guys, it's not that the information is not important. It just comes second. This is a sequencing problem. So give her a little emotional resonance. Let her feel that you can feel her. 9 times out of 10, the nervous system comes down. Not always, but most times. And then after that, when there's the connection reestablished, nervous systems are brought down a little. Then if you need to get to the facts of something or the actuality of it, then you do it then. And I think that's the biggest dynamic that I try to get guys to understand. And the punchline is, guys, deal with her nervous system first, get to the facts and the particulars later.
I love that. I've, in any of my work, or even in any of my relationships, even dealing with women or even dealing with men, it's like the nervous system, yes, and almost like the inner child too, where it's like there's this activated part of someone that's not going to be logical, that's not going to be interested in the solution, that's not going to be interested in the next step, that's not going to be interested, the part of you that needs to be tended to in that moment. And when we can really be with that and honor that, for me, there's no better feeling in the world. I think probably this is part of the feminine, but to feel less alone and to feel validated and to feel safe and to be seen in whatever it is that I'm expressing. Like 9 times out of 10, I don't even really care about the next step. It's like, there's that part of me that's activated right now that was probably looking for connection in some way and has now found it through this experience and is feeling just way less alone in it. So, and I've always thought, and I'm curious if you agree, but it's felt like in my experience being with men that it's felt to me like an ego thing where it's like, and I'm not saying that my, whatever my bid for connection is or my emotional response is correct, but it's felt like, what is it that they have to be so specific about getting the details and like everything right, where it's like they won't just let it go? Yeah. Like, what is that?
Yeah, it's how do I
Dear diary. Dear diary. Why won't they just let it go?
Why can't he just feel me, damn it?
No, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, we are.
Does it feel unsafe for men? Does it feel illogical? Like, what is it probably going through their head where they're like, I can't do this?
We're left brain creatures, and we have to process and find the meaning of things, the factual meaning of things. It's really, like I said, the word I used earlier was pathological. It's just so much in our DNA, and we've not learned the skills of just sitting with the energetics of something. You could say the emotions of something, but I like that word, the energetics of it. And that's more of your right brain doing that. And so it's built in, and we have to learn, guys just have to do the training to be able to rest in emotional expression that doesn't necessarily make sense, doesn't necessarily need a resolution. And these are skills that men can learn. And they need to be taught because their fathers didn't teach them that. And let's have a little bit of sympathy for the guys here. They didn't get taught this. Their grandfathers were super ass shut down. Their fathers were only slightly less shut down. And so, men of like my age or your age, we've been handed a legacy of not feeling. So we've had to wake up and there's hope for the next generation. They'll get that much more emotional awareness from their fathers, who are us. And people of my age, but it has to be taught, and that's the work I'm doing with men. And here's the thing: is if there's a resistance in men about learning these things, it's because they've seen a feminine version of knowing their emotions, expressing their emotions, and that's different. It's going to be a little more chaotic on average than what I like to refer to as more of a masculine style of being with your emotions. And that's what I'm teaching guys is we both feel deeply. We can feel deeply as well, just like you guys can. But it's the expression, it's going to be a little more chosen, a little more contained, a little more succinct. And that's the masculine style of being with emotions and expressing those emotions that I teach the guys. And once they realize how straightforward it can be, then they tend to get on board. They're like, oh, well, yeah, actually, I guess I can do that, because they see that particularly masculine style.
They're like, I need to understand logically how to be illogical.
Exactly.
If we were to flip it, so, the woman is looking for the connection. She's looking for feelings first, facts later.
Mm-hmm.
What are when the men are having an experience in their body of a dysregulated nervous system, what are the men looking for from women?
Yeah. I'm so glad you asked this, because I think this is really the relevant point for guys. What we want and need is the cleanest expression of your heart. And I'll explain what I mean by that, but that's what we want. We need the cleanest expression of your heart. The minute that any kind of blame gets injected into your expression, we start to tighten up. And just I'm not even talking about right or wrong or deserved or not deserved. I'm just saying it's a fact. Any hint, whether it's a dollop or a scoop of blame or disappointment that gets injected into your expression of pain is going to shut most men down. I'm not saying that's right. I'm saying that does happen, though. So when the cleanest expression of your heart is you telling us about you and how you feel, without then the story of, and here's why you caused that. The problem for guys is that your disappointment is our kryptonite.
Oh my gosh. I can't tell. I mean, sorry to interrupt you. I just wrote down disappointment. What I've realized over the past years is men literally cannot handle disappointing. Totally.
Yeah. It's hard for us. It's our kryptonite. We can be supermen in certain ways, and then boom, we're at our worst and our least relational. Now, that's our cross to bear, and that's the work that we need to go do. But let's just talk about how it occurs in the moment. So yeah, your disappointment is very hard. So if you want to be most successful, my advice is just give the cleanest expression of your heart. When you show up 25 minutes late, I feel like I'm not important to you. And I know that that's not necessarily true, but that's the story that comes up for me, and I feel lonely. So the more you can talk just about you without the story about us. And look, I get it. I mean, we all do that. We create a story about the other person to explain how we feel. Well, forget the story. Just explain how you feel. And make it as little about us as possible, and you'll find that we're that much more available for the expression. I mean, I can sit all day long and have my woman tell me about other people she's upset with. I have infinite capacity for that. When she's upset with me, I have slightly less capacity for that, and I have to then do my work to stay open to it. So I think that's the advice I can give to women is offer the cleanest expression of your heart that's as little about him as possible. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have a part to play in it, but start off with less about him and more about you, and you'll find the man is in most cases more available.
I love that. I think that even applies to any relationship, whether it's friendships, it's work dynamics. It's like if you can really make it about you and your experience. And
Yeah.
I always use the phrase, the story I'm telling myself, which is what you said too. It's like,
Yes.
the story I'm telling myself is that this doesn't mean something to you. And I know that's not true, but um, I think that's just so, so beautiful. And I can feel a man, leaning into that. I always love security statements too, where it's like, I love you so much and I love to spend time with you. And it's always
Yeah.
felt like you prioritized me. And it didn't feel like this time that I was the number one priority. And that was kind of a story I'm telling myself. And, so it's like, I think men love that too, where they're like, yeah, I am a good man and I am trying my best and I am doing these
Yeah.
things. And then they can receive that little bit of feedback so much better.
So true. It's you said security statements. I was thinking reassurance. So I think we're both saying exactly
Mhm.
the same thing. It's
Yep.
yeah, because we don't want when somebody's disappointed with us, our abandonment wound gets triggered, and all our disappointment our dad had in us at times, all that shit gets triggered. So the more that you can reassure to kind of quell those, and then bring in, here's the thing I really wanted to express. Yeah, I think it works so much better.
I'm curious. So you were mentioning emotional connection previously, and with women and sort of what happens when there's not a feeling of emotional connection.
Hmm.
And I think about this a lot because I've always been curious about um what do I want to say? So because I was thinking about my own experience. So in my own previous experience, I think in my relationship I was looking for like a 24/7 emotional connection. Now
Hmm.
I've been able to cultivate that relationship with myself and I need that connection less. But do you
Yeah.
feel like the masculine, because they're so on the island, like you said, are able to fulfill the desire of a woman's emotional connection because it's so great?
Ask me that question in a different way because I didn't fully follow it.
Yeah, so basically, like the woman's emotional connection desire, I feel like is so constant that do you feel like the masculine can fulfill that desire all the time? Or do you feel like there's always going to be a place where the woman is looking for a deeper emotional connection than the masculine can provide?
It's like, will we ever reconcile this thing?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in general, the feminine's always going to want more than is present. There's
Yeah.
just more and more. It feels so good, more. But it doesn't mean we're all hosed and that our relationships are doomed. Um, I think two things come up. One is, from a day-to-day basis, I think one of the pieces of structure that the masculine can bring is when he's available for connection and when he's not going to be. So if she's dying for, yeah, you're getting me, so I'll just verbalize it anyway. It's just if she's dying for connection at 3 in the afternoon and I'm at work or he's at work, and he's not responding to her, that might be painful for her. He needs to make clear when he's available and when not. So I think masculine leadership is part of bringing that structure. And I think for us, there'll always be a differential in how much connection is needed, on the average, and we just need to know that. And the man needs to have his awareness on her emotional needs enough that when it's really needed, he can really show up, even though it's not going to be all the time and 24/7. So that attunement to her to know when she really needs him, or even the little things he can do. Like it takes 3 seconds to send a text, one line text. Busy, babe, but I am thinking of you, love you, can't wait to come home and hold you. I mean, even that's probably longer than it needs to be. So his awareness needs to be when can he inject little pieces of connection that don't take any time, but really buoy her in her emotional needs if she's in a needy space. So I think those are two ways that men can bring something to the table to deal with that gap that will always exist to some degree.
Yeah, I love that because I think in the past, for me, it's felt like and I think for a lot of women, they struggle with this where the attunement and that level of energetic connection is really hard. What I'm perceiving is hard to describe to the masculine, where I
Mm-hmm.
would be in relationships with men where I'm like, I know when a man is with me from an attunement level, like it's so easy for me to tell or not. Like, and the way that I feel, the comfort level that I feel when a man is attuned to me, he can do
Yeah.
no wrong. He can not text me, he can not call me, he can do whatever he wants, and I'm good. Like, I am so
Yeah.
fine. But once I feel that attunement kind of shift, and that tends to
Yeah.
happen in long-term relationships where it just kind of, you kind of lose that direct attunement connection, or I felt that experience. So it's been hard to describe that feeling to me. Is there a way that women can describe that sort of emotional connection or attunement to a man to elicit just a greater connection and understanding from them?
Yeah, I think what you're asking me is how can women express this and be more successful in the expression?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah,
Because it's energetic. It's like it feels like it's, I'm like, you're attuned to me now, but not, it's like,
yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, my advice is a little bit the same, about a clean expression of it and a playful expression. I mean, you can get as playful as you can walk up to your man and grab his balls and say, I'm gonna rip these off if you don't call me more. And it's joking and it's playful. And I think it's around self-regulation enough that you're not coming out like a ball of flames, and you can be playful in it and speak from the heart. And so I think those are all ways that men can be reached more easily, is through play and through sexual innuendo and things like that can make the communication so much more successful.
yeah, it does feel like I always think that play is the key to communication with men. Like, and it's even like, yeah, it's always been like almost frustrating for me because I know that's what's going to get me the result that I want, the understanding that I want, the opening that I want. But sometimes I'm like, can I just fucking say what I want at the same time? So
Yeah.
finding that balance has been a little bit challenging, but um I think there's this perception though that women, because of our emotional experiences and the emotional range that we have, men perceive us as crazy, men perceive us as like all over the place. Some men want to find a woman that's easier or
Yeah.
more whatever. Can you talk about that desire from men and sort of what's happening there?
Yeah. Yeah, here's the I don't know. I was going to call it funny, but it's not funny. It's not ironic, but it's, a man wants a woman who's radiant and expressive and fun and all of these things. And then the minute she acts a little crazy, he's like, what the hell? Well, guys, it's the flip side of the same coin. A woman that has a lot of life force, it comes out in really cool ways and ways that are harder to deal with. So the first thing I say to guys is, don't start wishing for an easier woman, because that's the woman you're not going to be interested in. How can you learn to be with the fire, even when it's flying at you? How can you learn to be with the fire of your woman who's all those other qualities you love so dearly, and it keeps it interesting? I mean, that's the situation I'm in. I've got a fiery partner, and I've just made the choice. I'd rather learn to ride the rodeo than to find a new partner that was easier, because easier is going to turn out to be less compelling. And so I'm out there in my work challenging men, step up, learn, have the capacity for intensity to sit with the fire and respond relationally, rather than the non-relational stuff that we do, like getting defensive and denying and going stony and all those things. And so that's how I'm trying to call men forth, is build those capacities, because you can. These are well-known dynamics. You're not the only one, guys. These aren't mysteries. And there's well-known patterns of why women act crazy. There's well-known things of what puts a woman in that state where it comes out like that.
Will you explain some of those well-known reasons why?
Yeah, if your woman expresses something to you and you get defensive, try to talk her out of feeling that way. Or if you try to say, like, you're overreacting, like you're way out of proportion. I mean, those things might be true, but that most, I would say 99 out of 100 women are going to feel like the way they feel is being denied and invalidated, and that's gonna piss a woman off really, really fast. Now, I'm generalizing, of course, but if when you are your woman is making bids for connection and really, like, how are you feeling? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. Everything's good. Everything's good. Like when we hold our inner state inside, like a woman over time starts to feel very lonely and very desperate. And a desperate woman looks a lot like a woman who a guy would call crazy. Those two things look the same because desperation is painful. Like, of course, she doesn't want to feel like that. She doesn't want to feel alone in relationship. Like that's one of the most tragic things in the world. So I tell that to guys a lot. It's usually when they're acting that way, it's us evoking that because we're being non-relational. That's 9 out of 10 times the cause is us being non-relational. And that 10th time, that's the 10th time is where there's maybe an actual problem and the woman is actually somebody who might need help. But 9 out of 10 times, that's not the case. It's us evoking that in there is what I found.
Whew, I just got up, literally. It's the morning. You can hear Maverick in the background. He's doing a little independent play. I just got up from a deep, wonderful, beautiful night's sleep. And it was thanks to, yes, Maverick slept too, but I had my Beam Dream powder before I went to bed. I made such, he's happy for me. I made a really, really yummy, like hot chocolate, like Bev before bed. And I swear to you, this is the only beverage that gets me the deep sleep that I need, the quality sleep that I need. And I've been telling all of my mom friends about this. So that's why I'm so excited to talk about Beam Dreams powder. It's science-backed, healthy, hot cocoa for sleep. And this product has single-handedly changed the way I and my mom friends sleep. It is a guilt-free, pretty decadent beverage. They have different flavors: sea salt caramel, brownie batter, vanilla chai, and the Beam Dream powder original flavor, cinnamon cocoa, which is my favorite. Each serving is only 15 calories and 0 grams of sugar. How amazing. I mix it with whole milk, but you can mix it with any of like water. You can mix it with a milk alternative. But honestly, better sleep has never tasted better. Truly. They are tested for high quality efficacy and formulated to ease your body into rest, supporting all 4 stages of the sleep cycle to help you fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. I don't know about you, but I've tried other sleep aids. They've made me groggy. I don't feel really great, but what's in this blend helps balance and helps you sleep deeply, like reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. I know this holiday season, I know you have a million things to do. You're doing the most. And honestly, I know you can feel like very off track, very off your schedule, especially off your sleep routine. So this will help you get back on track. Beam Dream can just help you secure that 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep that I know we need with just a few sips. And I'm so excited for you to try it. This is also a great stocking stuffer. You're welcome for the idea. And check out Beam's limited time holiday flavors: white chocolate peppermint and gingerbread. The white chocolate peppermint, chef's kiss, so good. They're going to sell out, so get them now. There's never been a better time to try Dream. Their big sale this year is still going on. This is the lowest that Dream has ever been sold for. Get up to 50% off when you visit shopbeam.com/almost30 and use the code Maverick's here. When you use the code almost30, head over to shopbeam.com/almost30 and use the code almost30 for up to 50% off before they sell out. That's shopbeam.com/almost30 and use the code almost30 for up to 50% off. I just got back from a visit to my parents, and we were all just surrounding the Aura frame because it had been updated with all the latest photos of the babies in the family, my son Maverick and my sister's daughter. And it's just the best to be able to, in real time, update a photo frame for my parents. And actually, my grandparents have it too, where they can see just the growth and joy of their grandchildren and great grandchildren. honestly, I think if we're real, what most people really want for the holidays is to see their favorite people more often. So that's why this year, the best gift, I think, I have one, I actually have two. The best gift you can give is an Aura digital picture frame. Named the number one digital photo frame by Wirecutter, Aura frames are incredibly smart and easy to use. My grandparents use it, which is saying quite a bit. And they allow you to upload unlimited photos and videos directly from your phone to the frame. The app is incredibly easy. I can upload this in like 2 seconds. Plus, you can order the frame online and preload it with photos and videos using the Aura app, so it's ready to go right out of the box. Speaking of Maverick, who's behind me, he looks at the Aura frame every single morning, and obviously there's a lot of it, like videos and photos of him, and he looks at it and he goes, "Me." So actually, it's been an incredible way for him to recognize faces and associate names with faces. It's so, so cool. And it looks really chic in the home. So save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames by using promo code almost30 at checkout. That's auraframes.com, auraframes.com, promo code almost30. And this deal, oh, we have some jingles in the background, holiday time. The deal is exclusive to listeners, so get yours now in time for the holidays. Terms and conditions apply. That's auraframes.com, auraframes.com, promo code almost30.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing because I've kind of noticed that recently more so where there is a conversation on men wanting an easier woman, I guess, where it's like just kind of what does an easier woman mean? It's like less emotional, less emotionally reactive, all of these things.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because, it almost seems like with men, they were kind of trained to be nice guys, where that's
Mhm.
almost easier, to just be nice, to almost have no needs. And I've been in relationships with men who have been nice guys, have been amazing, but it was hard in the end because it was almost like they had no needs. And then that almost created
Right.
no identity.
Yep.
Can you talk about that nice guy sort of mentality and just to say it's almost the most heartbreaking thing to me that men are sort of stripped of their own identity and preferences and experiences and needs and this like ability to be authentic because it's felt like they haven't been able to be who they are and I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of reasons why guys slide into that trap. I mean, it's kind of laziness is one that doesn't get quoted a lot. Like it's just
Hey
easier
man,
to get
double
everywhere
click
she wants.
underline. Double
Yeah.
click underline.
Yeah. You've experienced this.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Yeah. We get lazy. It's just like it's just easier. I mean, I have so many clients like this. Oh my gosh. So there's that laziness. There's fear that comes from their childhood. It wasn't okay to be who they were and have any needs. And so they, like a common one I see is like the brother was really bad and got into lots of trouble. And so the little brother learned to never be like that. And okay, I'm just going to be good. By the way, that's my origin story. And is I had a brother that was, off the rails, and I didn't want to be like him and got the treatment he got. So those, as you said, those guys hide their needs, and they think it's a virtue. This easygoing guy syndrome. This really pisses me off. Yeah, I'm just an easygoing guy. It's cool, and no, it's not cool. That's why it's driving your woman nuts, and you guys are fighting all the time. I mean, about a month ago, I had a couple in a session, and I was trying to get him to see how his easygoing nature was pushing her away, and she was about to leave, and man, he was having a hard time seeing it. So, guys, easygoing is not a virtue because I'll tell you the whole arc of the relationship. For the first year, it's great because she's like, "Oh, this guy's so easy to be with, and there's never any fights." Until she gets tired of your absencing. You're just absent, and she's like, "Where are you? I can't even." There's no form there, and she wants to feel where you stand and what your needs are, so she knows how to orient relative to you. I mean, guys, this is so fundamental. So I really come down hard on guys who tell me that they're just easygoing guys and they think that's the path to marital bliss. So there's lots of reasons why guys go into that nice guy routine. And I think the core is, guys, it's going to get you the exact opposite of what you want, exact opposite. So you got to learn to speak authentically and speak your real truth and speak the moment. And that's a lot of what I work with guys on.
I love that. My head is about to fall off. I'm nodding so hard. Now it's like so funny because in my dating, so I was in relationship for 10 years. I was married and I've been dating since divorce. And it's been like one of the core tenets of what I'm looking for in relationship is someone that has like a backbone in who they are. And it's actually been the most attractive to me when there is preferences, when there is opinions, when there is perspective shared, and when they disagree, and when they're like saying something, when they're kind of like coming at me with things instead of being the nice guy. Like now the nice guy, agreeable, does everything I want, does everything I want to do, is like so unattractive to me because it feels unsafe. It feels jelly. It feels like, yeah, it is. It's like, where are you? Like, how can I trust you if you already are doing everything I say or doing everything that I want?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. It's counterintuitive to the men, not to you. You know exactly what but for the men, they're like, oh, really? I don't get that. And we want to wake them up to that fact. You want to be pushed back on a little bit in an attuned way, not an asshole way, but in an attuned way. And yeah, that's the art of it. Yeah, it's
such an art.
It is an art. It is an art. It's like, I mean, I've even been in situations where there's situations where it's okay to say, shut the fuck up.
Oh my God. One of my best friends, it's so funny. She's always like, I can't wait for my man to say, shut the fuck up to me. Yeah. And it's like, we're joking, but she's like, I can't wait till he's like saying, shut up, sit down. Like, just like where he's, again, we're joking, but it's like pushing up against on her so much that he's like, please let me lead. Please let me take control. Like, I love you, respect you. But like in this moment, like I'm the one that is like steering the ship.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. But most guys would hear that and they would run screaming. They're like, oh my God, I'll get arrested if I say that.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. I shouldn't share this, but I can't help it. And I'll do it anyway. I had a moment like that recently.
I can't wait.
My woman, I forgot what the circumstances were, but she was really upset with me right before we went to bed, like really upset with me. But there was a brattiness to the whole thing. And she's like, I want you to go out and sleep on the couch. And I was like, no, you go sleep on the fucking couch. I'm sleeping right here. And I proceeded to fall right asleep. And it felt so right to both of us, ironically. And it's just like, sometimes that brattiness needs to be met with, but let's put the but in there. Number one, it requires a lot of safety between the two partners and a lot of trust and just a lot of like scaffolding that has to. You cannot do that if those things aren't there. If they're not there, then this is a very bad way to go. So it's as we said, it's the art of it, but it needs a lot of trust in there.
Yeah, I mean, goodness gracious, like this whole dance is such an incredible art. Like it is like. And when you see a woman in it and when you see a man in it, it's like there's really nothing like it. And now having the experience of looking back on my relationship and seeing sort of all the things that we were doing differently and sort of where we were falling into these patterns that were not serving either of us and patterns that a lot of women are in. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about an experience that I see a lot of women in right now. Women, I'm asking for women because it's most of the audience, where they are very in their power, where they are making good money, where they are in their careers, where they are, managing a lot of their relationships from a friendship perspective. They are sort of like on their stuff and not feeling like the men are meeting them there from a dating perspective or relationship perspective. Do you think it's like they need to date different men or find different men? Or do you think it's, and I hate to say this because I don't believe this to be true, but I'm not sure. Do they have to coach the men? Like, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, what you just asked was kind of the age-old nature versus nurture question. Are they born that way or are they developed that way? And I think, like other parts of life, it's a little of both. You've got to find the right man out of the gate, or at least the man that he doesn't have to be perfect, but he's got to have that capacity. And that's where I think a lot of women do actually read the book. It's not just the men. And I get a lot that write me and say, oh my gosh, you gave me words to describe what I longed for. I just didn't know how to talk about it. And so women can use the book as a diagnostic tool, like take the blueprint. Does he seem grounded? Does he seem like he has leadership qualities? And does he seem capable of, is he aware of my level of emotional safety or the emotional connection between the two of us? And so I say, ladies, use the book as or at least just the principles from the book as a diagnostic tool to make sure you pick a guy who's at least in the right zip code of these capacities. So that's one. And then two, I wouldn't use the word coach him, but I would say gently and cleanly share your needs. If you're, I don't know, just something simple like trying to find a place to eat and he starts wavering a little bit, she can say, I would actually like you to decide, and just rest. I mean, that's one way to really stay on her side of the court and speak her needs without telling him what to do, which is where things often go off the rails. If it's an emotional need or maybe a frequency of communication, to just speak her need with love, with heart, but with resolution about what she needs to feel safe in relationship. Not tell him what to do. You don't have to coach him how to be, just speak your own needs. So I think between the two of those, one touches the nurture, or the other touches the nature, but I think they're clean ways to do nature and nurture. That's the advice that I think I would give.
Yeah, women reading your book. I tell you, being in this space, working with women for so long, I'm like, if it's one thing we're going to do the work for ourselves and we're going to do the work for others. Like almost all the time when we have men on to talk about this, it's always the women wanting to like do the work for the men, which is a problem in itself, but
yeah,
tale as old as time. I'd love to hear more about the masculine blueprint. I mean, and sort of where the impetus of this was coming from and the principles behind it. And then would this masculine blueprint be only for men, or would sort of kind of the ideas in it also be applicable for the masculine energy within women?
Yeah, I'd like to refer to it as just these are energies. And so a woman that wants to adopt this, I mean, you might have a lesbian couple and therefore gender is not really the relevant thing. And it's more about orientation. But I will say my audience and everything I talk about is targeted at men who want to inhabit their masculine, who are with women who want to inhabit more of their feminine. So that's the frame I always talk about, but we can apply it anyway. Shit, now I forgot the question you asked me, Krista.
Oh, no, it's basically, what's the masculine blueprint?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's easy. So the masculine blueprint is a framework for what I would call a man inhabiting his masculine core, really anybody, but a man inhabiting his masculine core. It had to be a couple of things. One is actionable and understandable. That was super important to me. I didn't want to, there's a lot of esoteric woo-woo stuff out there. I mean, I think David is so brilliant, but a lot of people would say he's pretty out there. And the guys are like, well, it sounded cool, but I have no idea what to do. So
Totally.
I wanted them to read it and know exactly what to do, or at least, get close. And it needed to work in our modern world. We're not doing anything out of the 1950s. We live in a Me Too world. So it's gotta work in that world, I think, to be relevant and useful. The framework is called the masculine blueprint, and it has 3 elements. And so the first is respond versus react. So this is a quality of a man who is, first and foremost, he's grounded. His nervous system just feels settled. And if you're around him, you can actually feel that too. And from that place of groundedness, there's a lot of spaciousness from which he can live out of intention and choice rather than out of reactivity or fear or self-protection or scripting or any of these things. And so he just feels very choiceful moment to moment. And then from that place of settledness and stillness and choicefulness, actually, before I speak about from that place, I'll say, the stillness is not stoicism. So it's not detachment or being shut down. These are 2 very different things. In stillness, you can receive in stillness, but you still engage. You have a strong engagement, whereas stoicism is not that way. So We're not talking about stoicism here. We're talking about stillness.
Men love to use stoicism. They're like, I'm being stoic. You're like, you're literally shut down.
Yeah. And the woman's like, this does not work for me.
Literally, when a man's like, I'm stoic, I'm like, I'm good about all that.
Yeah. It's like, see you later. Thanks anyway. Okay. So that's the first element, is respond versus react. And so to help foster this, I work with men on having a different relationship to their emotions. And so I talk about emotions a lot, but through a masculine lens. But the thing I talk about the most is embodiment practice, and using a daily embodiment practice to really ground your nervous system and cultivate this capacity within you. So this was the topic of my whole second book, which is called The Art of Embodiment, because I feel so passionately about that topic. So that's the first element. The second element is provide structure. So this is the quality of a man who's, first and foremost, he's got inner clarity about what he wants, what he needs, his preferences, his needs, his boundaries, but also not just him, but also his partner too, and really anybody who's in his sphere. He's able to be attuned to his partner and to know her needs and her wants and her boundaries already. He doesn't have to ask or have trial and error. He knows her so well because over time he learns his woman. So he needs to be very attuned to his partner. So what he can do is then fold in her needs from the start. So when he brings leadership into the relationship, he's already accounted for her needs. Now, it won't be perfect, but it's better than being narcissistic or just doing what you want. That's not what we're talking about here. So it starts with inner clarity that then gets expressed externally as direction and structure and clarity in the world. Like this quality, he's always striving for clarity and forward movement on things. And this is where a lot of guys have started to abdicate in our modern times, and just like, well, what do you want, babe? Just tell me what you want and I'll give it to you. But we know that being fully relational requires him to bring more of himself, more of what he thinks is right, and more leadership into the relationship. Doesn't mean he's the only one. I mean, in my relationship, my woman brings a lot of leadership, but so do I. And so there's an interplay and a dance between the two of us. So leadership in a relationship is the second element of this. The third element is create safety. We're talking about physical, financial, and emotional safety. And I don't talk too much about physical and financial in the book. I'll save that for a sequel. But I do talk a hell of a lot about emotional safety. And I try to get guys to understand, like, the degree to which she is open to you and relaxed with you is absolutely proportional to how safe she feels around you, how much trust and safety she experiences with you. And so it's not just following through on your word, but it's also making space for her expression, even when it's a little messy, and, validating her feelings, creating some emotional resonance with her, not dropping her from your awareness. Like if you go off to your buddies for a golf weekend, like you don't ignore her all weekend. You don't let her drop out of your awareness, because that's going to create a sense of loneliness in her. So all the things that men can do to build emotional safety and emotional connection with her. And so I work with guys a lot on that. And so that's the third element of the blueprint. So my message to guys is, if you get grounded, if you lead more, and if you build emotional connection and safety, you will have an amazing relationship. Absent other factors, there's always other factors, but absent other factors, you're going to greatly improve the quality of your relationship just by embodying those three qualities. So that's the masculine blueprint.
That's beautiful. I think I'm curious too that, with the emotional safety, I would even think that as a woman, if I have the emotional safety and the other two pillars, that the financial and the physical would be less important to me because I'd be having those certain needs met. But how, like, of the three safeties, the financial, the physical, and the emotional, how do you see those interplaying with one another?
Let's see. I mean, all are forms of a guy's deep commitment. I'm going to take care of my woman.
Yeah.
I am going to take care of my woman. I'm going to take care of her heart. I'm going to take care of her physical body, i.e. safety. And I'm going to take care of her. I don't even know what words to use, but I'm going to make sure that financially I'm not being irresponsible, so that the bottom doesn't drop out for the two of us. I knew a guy, he was a good dude, but he really wanted to be a filmmaker and a coach. And he was at some point, his wife was like, dude, what is your plan? Because he wasn't making enough money. She was actually making more than him. And he finally got the message that he needed to do the web development work that was his more profit making vocation, and do the filmmaking and the coaching on the side. But it was like a year or two of real pain between the two of them as he chased his dream, but he wasn't being responsible, and she couldn't respect him. It wasn't that they were going to be on the streets, because she had a good job, but she couldn't respect him, and that's part of being a provider. So you're going to take care of your woman in that way, that of resources are never going to be depleted. It doesn't mean you have to be rich. Doesn't mean you have to be wealthy. It means you need to be responsible with how you invest your money, how you make your money, how you grow your own skills so you continue to make more money and keep up with inflation and things like that. So, I mean, I think that's the thread that runs through all those, is like this commitment. I'm going to take care of my woman. Now, how do I do that in each of these domains?
I am stocked with my immunity essentials. It is cold season. You can hear I got a cold from my son. It's inevitable, but I try to make sure that my immune system is as strong as possible to fight it off quickly and effectively. And so I turn to Symbiotica always and forever. I absolutely adore these supplements. They are not only delicious and easy to take, but they are so effective, clean, and pure. And I just trust them wholeheartedly. Why are they yummy to take? You think supplements and you're like, oh, I gotta swallow a pill. No, most of their supplements are delivered liposomally. So it is a liquid and they have incredible flavors. Like their vitamin C is this citrus vanilla that's just so yummy. Their vitamin D3K2 is also incredible. Their B12, B6 has like this mixed berry taste. I love it and it makes taking it so enjoyable. I mentioned the vitamin C. That's one I'm taking every single day. It also has biotin in it. So not only is it good for your immune system, it gives you more energy and more radiant skin, which I am about these days. I'm also taking the vitamin D3K2. Most of us are deficient in vitamin D. Vitamin D is so important for mood and for your immune system and more. So make sure you are getting adequate amounts. And then finally, let's see, what should I shout out? Honestly, I have so many that I love. I really love the Shilajit. So the Shilajit, I make a cup of it every single morning. It has over 84 essential minerals, and minerals are just really important for every system of our body. Most of us are mineral deficient because just how our soil quality is now. We're not necessarily getting them from our foods like we would normally back in the day. So getting those minerals are so important. So the Shilajit is incredible, the best on the market, I think. So you can go to symbiotica.com. You can save up to 20%. Whoa, 20% on site wide with our code almost 30. Just go to symbiotica.com/almost 30 and use the code almost 30 for 20% off. That is symbiotika.com/almost 30. Use the code almost 30 for 20% off site wide.
Yeah, I think the financial, is a safety in a sense. Like your awareness of and I always think, the woman, from the way I've experienced it in my own life and the way that I desire to be in relationship, it's like I am all in the realms of the spiritual, the mental and emotional. And then like my man is like the master of the material realm. And part of that is an understanding of our financial landscape, the way that we're going to operate, and like a grounding in this actual 3D world. And I'm not saying that I make really good money, I do really well, but I would need a like grounded sense of awareness of where we're going, what we're doing, and the fact that like you're going to take care of us, and that will be sort of like your role. But it has felt like that, I feel like in the space that I'm in, especially being with very powerful women, all the women that I am friends with and in my world and community, almost all make more money than the men that they're with. And it affects the relationship differently. Some it works and some it's totally fine, and some it's really challenging. But for the ones that it does work, the way that it works is that the man is completely aware of that part of the dynamic and is in conversation and communication about how that's affecting them and how that's affecting the other. And they can sort of adjust to make sure that it feels equitable between them and that they find polarity in other places.
Yeah. I think things that were coming up while you were talking is like regardless of however each makes, just put that aside for 1 second, for the man to have awareness around what are their financial resources and therefore how can we spend? Not that they're dictating that, they're just putting structure to it so there's clarity between the two of you. And so there's a lot of this financial safety that isn't about him making more and isn't about him dictating how they spend, but bringing clarity and structure to it as well. And then the other thing that came up for me is it's a little bit of the flip side. Guys can over-identify with this provider role, and they can start working their ass off and not bringing anything to the relational space between he and his woman. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm working on $100 million deals at work, and you're upset with me because I didn't hang the picture, or I didn't call you, or whatever it is. And I caution guys, don't over-identify with this and think that all you have to do is bring home the bacon and she should be happy with you, because it's not enough.
I love that you said that. I've seen that happen many a time. And I'm like, what is actually driving them? Because when I think about that, I'm like, I don't know if it's actually their desire for the woman in their relationship that's actually driving it. But I sometimes think that they say that, where they're like, no, I'm doing this for us or for the family or whatever. And it's like, is it really? Is your desire to have $1 billion company for us, for the family? Like, it's probably more so for your own egoic desire of whatever. Like, I don't know of many women that are like interested in that sort of thing. So I think that's a really powerful point, even though I do feel for men in that way where, they're kind of in that provider, or I feel for men in the way that, they're led to believe from like a consciousness level that we do desire a lot of money, or we do desire those things, but it's really more of the connection and the emotion is up for the women that I know.
Yeah, it's so true. I think that I know lots of CEOs that are awesome husbands and dads. So let's not, guys, don't give me this spiel that, your work is so important, therefore you can't do X, Y, and Z. You can find a way to do X, Y, and Z. You can, I guarantee it.
Hey, you don't got to tell me. I was talking to a friend yesterday who was saying her husband works, or her boyfriend, potentially husband, works so much. He's working all the time and she's looking for more connection. And she's now in the place where at first it's like, kind of like I want more. And now it's like she's cold. And now it's in that cycle of her being angry and then him not wanting to be with her because she's angry. And it's kind of that type of dynamic where he's now wanting to avoid more and wanting to work more. And I've seen this happen with so many different women, but he's like, I have to work for us. I have to work for the family. And it's like, is that like, what, how is it for a woman who does so much as like we're so multidimensional, to hear a man be like, oh, I can't work and like make a relationship work is like so frustrating. You're like, literally not that hard.
Yeah, it's lazy. I mean, we talked about laziness before. This is just another form of that.
This is a podcast that I like. Lazy. Men called lazy twice.
Yeah, you could do a whole podcast on that, probably just on that one topic. Yeah, it's lazy, and these men need to be shown the way. This is why men need other men to push them, so their woman isn't the one pushing them. It's another man that's calling him out of like, dude, your wife is on the edge of walking out on you, and all you can do is focus on your work. Like, you need to step up, brother. And that's where other men can help guys see their own folly of their ways.
So when you say that, and I could be experiencing it wrong, what I perceive is that men will come together and still make the woman the problem and sort of gang up and there's nothing wrong with being validated. When I'm with my girlfriends, most of the time they're validating me, but the friends that I have with now are usually giving the different perspective. Yeah. But most unconscious men are together validating the experience of the man. So how can a man find, men that are going to call him forward? Yeah.
You've got, I love the distinction you made, because there's kind of like I have friends who are just bro friends. We go, we watch the game, we drink beer, we talk about some stuff, but we don't get deep. We don't self-introspect. We don't call each other out that much. Then I have other friends who are men of depth. So I love that you've made the distinction for me here. Yeah, I'm encouraging men to find other men of depth in an intentional container, which is usually a men's group. And then there's that intention to actually call each other out, not just be like, oh, bro, yeah, my wife's bringing me down. She just complains all the time. That's different. And so I encourage all guys, find a men's group that's men of depth that will push you and reflect back to you. It's invaluable.
I think I think for many men and many women, we haven't necessarily seen relational dynamics that have been sovereign and healthy and fulfilling and joyful, and all of the things that the new templates are sort of bringing, and all the ways that they're coming online now. And I do feel like for men, I don't know if a lot of them know that it's possible to be in a relationship with a woman that is enlivening and is supportive and is like all the things that they're wishing. So it does feel like there is this almost like acceptance of the status quo of the dynamics that exist. And I don't know if they know that it's possible to have the relationship that they could have.
Yeah. The resignation. I'm just going to speak for the men because the women feel this too, and at the same time. But for men, they're just like, I can't do anything right in her eyes, and that's, again, just focusing on the men for a second. Oh, it's like seeing like a dog chained into the backyard that never gets let out or walked or anything. It's just sad that these guys are so resigned to this situation that is just so much less than what is possible. And like hopefully I'm a voice out there showing guys, no, guys, it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't. You just master a few dynamics, build a few capacities within you, and you're going to see that evoke a lot different dynamic in your relationship because more is possible.
And then as far as sexual leadership with men and the masculine, do you feel like men have to master it outside of the bedroom first and then move to the bedroom? Or what would be the dynamic between using the masculine blueprint in their life and then applying it to the bedroom? How do you see those playing?
Yeah, I think you got to start outside the bedroom first. You can't be lame outside the bedroom and then go in the bedroom and think you're going to lead your woman. I mean, it might work once in a while, but at the more macro level of your relationship, no, it's not going to work. And so I think a great aphrodisiac is when a woman feels safe enough to surrender under her man's lead. Like that's sexy. And then you start to bring it into the bedroom where you start leading in the bedroom more. And this is one of my favorite topics to talk about, sexual leadership. I'm doing a workshop on this in October in San Francisco because I'm so passionate about the topic. And it's fun work that guys can do when they start to bring their own power into the bedroom and learn how to bring a lot of guys bring the light and the love and caring, but I'm going to bring a little darkness with that light. And, that combination, I think, is a really unbeatable one in terms of sexual polarity.
Yeah. I mean, it's what most women crave. I think that's what's been so interesting to witness. I think as I've gotten older is, moving out of like the nice guy as like the most attractive and reading some of the work that I've studied and even some of like Jordan Peterson's work where it talks a lot about how women actually crave a lot of that darkness, as exemplified in Beauty and the Beast, or like their desire for the werewolf or the vampire, or all of these things where women actually want a little bit of that. I could kill you, but I choose to not. And like that sort of darkness is something that we really crave. But I think though that seems like it's such a next level nuanced understanding of energy that it seems like you'd have to be pretty like 201 level to be able to practice it.
Yeah. It's the most vulnerable place of sexuality for both you and us, It's vulnerable for us to bring a strong lead in sexuality. The risk of being rejected or in some way is so great. And then for you, it's a risk of safety.
Yeah.
And feeling safe in your body. But it's also the juiciest. It's a 201 class, maybe it's a 301 class. But damn, it's the most fun. We all know that. And so when a guy can really bring that darkness, it's darkness governed by the light. That's how I like to describe it. And bringing one or the other by itself is not good. All the light is boring. All the darkness turns into misogyny and sexual abuse. And so it's the combination which is so juicy for both partners.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think just the last point on that, like, I think when we said like the men have to cultivate it outside the bedroom, then in the bedroom, it's been nice in my experience because I think I've actually been able to find my surrender and my most softness and my feminine in the bedroom. And that's helped teach me outside of the bedroom how to be. And it's almost like the men have cultivated this outside, which has created that safety inside the bedroom for me to be able to practice that. But it's felt like that's been the softest container for me to experience like my most true surrendered feminine.
I love hearing that. I love hearing that. Yeah, it's a vulnerable place to do it. So it's awesome that you have found that in the bedroom.
It's beautiful. It's the best. What would you say, just as a last thing, for women that are listening today, that are in the dating world, that are looking to find a conscious man and find a man that will hopefully meet them in all of their femininity?
Yeah. Well, what comes up for me is something that I've already said. And, to the degree that you can, ladies, look past the biceps and look for a man that can meet your needs relative to the blueprint. And I just recommend using it as a diagnostic tool. If he's grounded and settled, that relationship has way more potential than one with a guy who's, he's just a little too fast, and he feels very reactive. Even you'll be able to sense it, even if it's a first, second, third, fourth date where you're not going to be a fight happening. You can still sense a guy that he doesn't have a lot of that gap between stimulus and response. And so stay away from those guys that don't have that gap and they're just sort of instantaneous, because the minute you guys start fighting, which is inevitable in a relationship, that's going to be a bad foundation from him to operate from. Does he lead? Can you feel his natural leadership? And does he seem to have a sense of the emotional flows of life? I think that's the advice I would give any woman of any age, quite frankly.
Beautiful. Beautiful. This has been so much fun. I'd love to share where people can find you and sort of where they can connect with your work. They're mostly women, and so they're going to be doing all the research for themselves and their partner.
Yeah. Well, the easiest way to get to know my work is just get on Amazon and order the book. Kindle, hardback, or paperback, and audio. But gsyoungblood.com, you can see all of the information about my coaching. I have both one-on-one and group coaching. My boot camp program, which is a live online program I do with guys, like 10 guys at a time. We go through an 8-week process. You see information about the workshop. So ladies, if you want to send your man, we're going to do the Leading in the Bedroom workshop for guys in October in San Francisco. And YouTube and Instagram have lots of videos of me talking about various things, if this video wasn't enough to get to know my work. So that's how you can find me. So appreciate sending your man along to check out some of the work on those places.
The men don't even know, but they're about to get sent to camp.
Exactly.
Their homework is about to begin. This has been so amazing, and I'm so grateful for your work and this conversation and just like all the ways that we could go. I'm excited to be more acclimated with your work even more soon, and I really appreciate you hanging with me today.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun for me, and I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.
Thank you so much, GS Youngblood. Again, that's gsyoungblood.com. The book is The Masculine in Relationship and the Art of Embodiment for Men. And we have other episodes on the masculine feminine dynamics with folks like John Wineland. If you want to search for those, we'll also put those in our show notes.
You can go to almost30.com to learn more about the show and follow us on Instagram at almost30podcast. Same on TikTok. I am on Instagram at Lindsay Simsick.
And you can find me on Instagram at It's Krista.
All right, y'all. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.